Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the DC Capstone Report. It's great to be back with you. This is DC. I just want to apologize for not having any of the podcast up for the last few weeks, but shortly after my first podcast of the year, I contracted COVID, and I have been sick for an extended period of time. It's been a hard recovery, but I am blessed. Definitely not like those who have had to go to the hospital or on ventilators and have lost their life. But I will tell you that it's a tough go of it, but I was able to tough it out at home, and I was vaccinated and feel like the vaccine helped me fight off the virus itself. It has been a rough go of it, but right now I'm ready to get back to the swing of things of the DC Capstone Report. Thank you for all the listeners and those who've reached out to me wondering when a new podcast would go up. So today we're on the podcast. In our first segment, we're going to review the Southern Miss game. In our second segment, we're going to talk about the players of the game against Southern Miss. In our third and final segment, we'll preview the upcoming game against the Ole Miss Rebels.
You're listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on the Martin Houston Show at Tide 100.9. You can listen live at Tide100.9.com.
Well, in the first segment, we're going to take a look at a review of the last game, Alabama versus Southern Miss, there in Bryant-Denny Stadium. A night game under the lights, and Alabama came away with a big victory, 63-14, over the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. Alabama moves to 4-0, still number one in the nation. Seemed to be hitting on all cylinders in this game. There had been some question marks after Alabama coming out in a good game against Miami and doing well, and then beating Mercer in a game. Everyone was concerned about that Florida game that we played in the Swamp. Now, I feel like that we ought to give more credit to Florida in that game, so I had a good feeling coming off the Florida game we were going to do really well against Southern Miss, and we did just that. I think on offense we looked really good when we hit the field. I think our run game was better, and I believe that the line has begun to gel a little bit. I still think they're trying to fill out each other and their blocking schemes and that sort of thing. But I think our run game was better, and it showed based on the line's blocking in this game against Southern Miss. I was really pleased with the way some of the play calling went, trying to establish the run, setting up the play action passing. I really believe we're a better offensive team when we're able to establish the run and play action pass. I think Bryce Young does a good job of making decisions in that game. My only criticism of Bryce Young in previous games has been his decision-making off the RPOs seemed to be not as crisp as I would like them to be. I think he really functions really well out of the play-action passing game, and I hope that's what we continue to take advantage of. But in this game, I think the overall offensive game plan was a good one. I think we went in wanting to score some points. Coach Saban had been talking about wanting to see some explosive plays, and we were able to do that. I thought the crowd at Bryant-Denny was good, gave some enthusiasm to the players, encouraged them to play in front of a packed house like it was, and really believe that helped the intensity of the game. I do think that we had a little bit of trouble maintaining that intensity throughout the game. There were some times we had some letdowns, had to punt the ball a couple of times on offense, but overall I thought it was a really good showing. We were pretty much had cleaned up some of the penalties that had plagued us in earlier games. Some of the motion penalties and things of that nature. I think those mistakes were limited in this game, so that was an improvement as well. In our passing game, I thought we did a really good job of throwing the ball deep down the field in this game. That was something that people were criticizing us for, not be able to throw the ball down the field like we've done in the past. But I think that again originated out of our play-action passing game. And if you remember in years past, that play-action passing game has been really big for Alabama. But in order to do that, you got to establish the run. I don't think we ever really did that against Florida, and that was a difficulty in that game. So I think having success down the road is we're going to have to establish the run, but in order to make our passing game be all that it needs to be. But in this game, we had 313 yards passing by Bryce Young. Paul Tyson had 58 yards passing, and Jalen Milroe had 24 yards passing when he came into the game. So the quarterbacks all did really well in the pass game. So I think our blocking was better in the passing game, and I think our overall play in the passing game was really well. Our wide receivers, seemed to step up to the plate. We had some catch some deep balls. We had some catching some crossing routes across the middle, some shorter routes, and our tight ends really did a good job in this game. I think Cameron Latu and Jaleel Billingsley both played well at the tight end position. And when we have both of them on the field at the same time, and they both have offensive production in the passing game, that's a big plus for any team. And I think Cameron Latu, having 2 touchdowns and Jaleel Billingsley having a touchdown, getting 3 touchdowns from the tight end position in a game like this was critical. It was really big. So I think overall in our passing game, our wide receivers played well, our tight ends played well, the quarterbacks all played well, and the offensive line did really well. So I think overall in the passing game looked really good. Overall in offense, I think we looked really good. We got some improvements to make? Sure we do. I think every team has improvements coming out of the 4th game of the year. I believe your team is just gelling, and I think we are doing that on offense. So I think going forward, this was a big game for us offensively to kind of pick up the pace a little bit and see what we can do down the road. So overall, I think in this game, Alabama did a good job on offense against the Southern Miss Golden Eagles. On defense, it seems like in this game we had a really, really good opportunity to establish ourselves on the defensive line. And I think that defensively we did a really good job of forcing them into some situations that they really weren't prepared for. I think they tried to show a little bit too much on their offense, holding them to 14 points. Huge for our defense to do that. I think that when you hold any team to 14 points in this day and time, you've done a really good job of doing that. They only had 131 yards passing, didn't crack 100 yards rushing the ball. So overall, our defense played really good. Line play improved in this game. We did have some penalties in the defensive backs, but I think it was improving in our way we played, turning our head to the ball better, and our linebackers did a really good job of pursuing in this game, running to the ball. So I think overall in this game against Southern Miss, when you look at it and review it, we did a really good job on offense. We did a good job on defense, which gives some improvements for the next game. But I think overall Alabama's play against Southern Miss was what I expected. Blew them out in a 63-14 score. Well, now in our second segment, we're going to take a look at the players of the game against Southern Miss. Well, on offense, I think you have to go with the quarterback, number 1 player of the game against Southern Miss, and that is Bryce Young. Look at this game. Bryce Young was 20 of 22. That's 22 passes he threw, and 20 of them that he completed. He was 313 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had 1 interception, so one of those incompletions was an interception, and that interception was not his fault. Hit the receiver right in the hands, and he missed it. Knocked it up in the air and was intercepted on a tip play by the Southern Miss defensive back. So overall, I think Bryce Young played one of his best games that he's had. Passing wise, did a good job of making decisions. Did extend some plays with his feet. Made some good jobs on good decisions on plays at the line of scrimmage, on RPOs, running the ball or passing the ball. So I think overall he's been probably the best game that he's played so far this year. So on offense, one of my players of the game is Bryce Young. On another 2 players on offense, I think I have to give them credit. They stepped up when Brian Robinson was unable to go in this game due to some bruised ribs. That is Jase McClelland and Roydell Williams, our 2 running backs. Almost went for 100 yards each. Roydell Williams went for 110 yards, and Jase McClelland, of course, went for 97 yards. He also caught a touchdown pass as well. For 9 yards. So both of them gave some really good play from the running back position, stepping up for Brian Robinson. I think Roydell Williams was impressive in this game because he fumbled the ball. Once you fumble the ball in the game, Coach Saban, you got to get in Coach Saban's doghouse. I think he had to come back from that, regain his confidence, and I think he did that in this game. And he's always shown what I thought he could be, that change of pace running back with a little bit of quickness, a little bit more speed. And maybe not as powerful as the other 2 running backs, but does a good job of eluding and some elusive speed. So I think he showed that in this game. He got ready for some big runs. So he had by far his best game ever since he came to Alabama out of Hueytown High School. So Roydell Williams did good. Jase McClelland did good. So my offensive players of the game are Bryce Young, Roydell Williams, and Jase McClelland. On the defensive side of the ball, it seems like I can't have a game without calling this young man's name. That's Will Anderson Jr. Will Anderson Jr. from the defensive end position, the outside linebacker position, where he stands up with his hand on the ground. He played all different types in this from either side of the line of scrimmage on each end. He rotated back and forth. He got himself in great position. He did the little things that many of us don't even think about doing. He played run. He played the pitch man. He played the quarterback. He got a sack in this game. He got tremendous pressure from the outside that really disrupted the quarterback on a lot of quarterback hurry. So Will Anderson Jr. again is one of my defensive players of the game. My other defensive player of the game is somebody that I've been critical of, and I want to go ahead and give him a shout out for this game. That's Demarco Helens. I've said in the past that he might be the weak link in our defensive secondary, but in this game he did really well on pass coverage. He had an interception in this game on the tip ball, and he also had 4 tackles. He led the team in tackles. He had 4 tackles and 1 assist. So he did a really good job, and I've been critical of him in the past, and I want to say he's improving, and so that's really good. I think we have some defensive backs that if we can get the right 5 on the field at the same time, we can really do some good defensive coverages, and I think he proved this time that he is up for the task. So my defensive players of the game were Will Anderson Jr. and Demarco Helens. And in this game, I had to have a special teams player in the game. When someone does something special like this young man did in this game, you got to recognize it. So a special teams player of this game had to be Jameson Williams, the transfer from Ohio State. He showed his quick speed right out of the gate on the very first kickoff and takes the kickoff back 100 yards for a touchdown. And then he did something that's never been done before, and at least for Alabama, and that is take another kickoff back for a touchdown. So he had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. And what I loved about it was not only those, he had been taken out of the game late in the game when that gave some other people playing time. And when it came time to get on the special teams to go down and cover punts or block on punts, he wanted to get back in there every time and play on special teams. So that tells me that he's has a passion for the game. He likes to run the ball, of course, and score touchdowns, but he also likes to be a team player, to go in and coverage punts and be the first man down to make the tackle, to be on kickoff coverage and punt coverage. So my special team player of the game is Jameson Williams. So there you have it, my players of the game against Southern Miss. On offense, Bryce Young, Roydell Williams, and Jase McClelland. On defense, Will Anderson Jr. and Demarco Helens. And on special teams, Jameson Williams. Well, that brings us to our third and final segment of the day on the DC Capstone Report, and that is a preview of a big game coming up against the Ole Miss Rebels. The Ole Miss Rebels come to town this coming Saturday. Be the first Saturday in October. They'll come to town with their head coach Lane Kiffin, former offensive coordinator at the University of Alabama. He would love nothing better than to be the first Saban assistant to beat him in a game. And he brings a team to Tuscaloosa, to Bryant-Denny Stadium, that he feels like, and more importantly, that the players feel like, is the best opportunity for them to beat Alabama here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And we know that Ole Miss has had some success before. Hugh Freeze had some success against Alabama, both here and at Vaught Hemingway Stadium there in Mississippi. But this is an opportunity for Lane Kiffin to come in and to show that he is able to beat Nick Saban. He has a lot of good things to say about Coach Saban, about his time here, and I think he learned a lot here. I think he's very respectful of Coach Saban, but I think he would love nothing better than to be the first assistant coach to beat him. Well, everybody is talking about this is a game that Alabama could get exposed, and because of last year's game being so close there when we played them, and we had the offense to trade touchdowns with them, and was able to get ahead right at the end and beat them. But here, this year, people are saying that we don't have the same type of offense, and that this might be the year that Ole Miss beats Alabama based on their style of play. Well, I want to break it down just a little bit and go over as we preview this. I think it's going to be a challenge. I think it may be the biggest challenge we faced so far at home, by no doubt. I think the Florida game was a big challenge on the road, and this will be our first game at home that'll be a threat to us. I think, first of all, our fans need to show up in full force and make a difference in the game by the way we make this a hard stadium to play in. I think Ole Miss makes some calls on the field. They make some. They have to communicate, and if we can affect that in any way as a stadium, we need to do that. So I think Coach Saban has called that for that, and we need to do a good job. So if you're coming to the game this week, encourage everyone you're around to affect this game with the way we cheer and the way we yell and make noise in this game. I think it could be a factor. Ole Miss is going to bring in a great quarterback, McClelland, great receivers, great running backs, and an offensive game plan to try to beat Alabama, and they can move the ball. It is going to be imperative for our defense to do a good job of playing against the run and stopping the run. I think Ole Miss talks about being a passing team, but I think everything in Ole Miss starts with their running game and being able to extend plays on third down. So we're going to have to keep the quarterback in the pocket, and we're going to have to play good against the run. And we can't be dazzled by all the movement and all the things that Lane Kiffin likes to throw out there, all the eye candy, as Coach Saban calls it. We've got to run to the ball, and we got to be sound fundamentally in tackling and keep our gaps on the defensive line, gap control. And if we can do that, then I think we can stop this running game. Then the second thing we need to do is pressure on the quarterback up the middle, and that means we got to rely on our defensive line to get a good push against the Ole Miss defensive line as we keep the quarterback in the pocket. Let the pressure come from the middle so that he's pushed to the outside, running into Will Anderson Jr. on one side and Drew Sanders on the other side. And if we can do that, if we can keep him contained in the pocket and let the pressure come up the middle, then we have a good chance to affecting his play in this game. Matt Corral is a difference maker, and he can make a difference for Ole Miss in this game. If we don't make any mistakes on defense and we don't have any crazy penalties, then I think our defense can hold Ole Miss. Are we going to shut them out? I don't think so. I don't think this day and time we have the ability anymore to do the shutouts like we used to when playing teams like Ole Miss and their high-powered offenses. But I do think we can win this ball game if our defense plays mistake-free football and gets a good push up the middle. Now, what do we have to do on offense? I think we have to score. But I don't think we're going to score and win this game in the passing game without doing one thing first, and that is establish the run. My hope is that the offensive game's plan for Alabama is to establish the run. Bryce Young has already proven he's much better passing, and we're a much better passing team when we throw out of play-action passing. In order to do the play-action passing, you have to establish the run game. So look for Brian Robinson to come back, and I look for us to play 4 running backs in this game. I think Brian Robinson, if he's healthy, will get the start. Jase McClelland, Roydell Williams, and Trey Sanders will all get to play in this game because I think we're going to need to run the ball and run the ball effectively in order to set up our passes. Our offensive line is going to have to come together and communicate in this game and stop Ole Miss from putting pressure in the middle so that we can run the ball and set up the play-action passing game. If we do that, we have the skilled players to make a difference in this game and score and match score for score with Ole Miss. And I think when it comes down to the end of it, home field advantage, if our crowd makes a difference in the game by affecting the Ole Miss's play, causing them to make the errors, much like we did when we played at Florida, then Alabama makes a difference in this game and comes out on top. I think it's going to be a close game for a little while, but I think Alabama pulls away significantly, and then Ole Miss closes the gap at the end. And my prediction is Alabama wins this game 52-38. Alabama 52, Ole Miss 38. Well, that's then the DC Capstone Report for the day. Again, thank you for allowing me to be back with you. I appreciate those who's concerned, who's checked on me while I was away. And hopefully I am on the road to recovery, and I'll see you back here next week with another DC Capstone Report. Until then, this is DC for Lance Shores, who does all the production. Check out our sites at dccapstonereport.com. Check out Lance's sites at freelancepictures.com, rolltidebama.com. Until next time, this is DC with the DC Capstone Report saying, Roll Tide.